I'll ask Commissioner Notarianni to, since he's already standing, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll call the meeting to order, and the record will reflect that the District Attorney Powell is participating by telephone. He called in, so he's live. Can you hear us, Mr. Powell?
I can, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, I trust that everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes that were circulated of last month's meeting, which was out at the prison. And so I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading and adopt the minutes from last month's meeting.
Second.
I have a second. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes from the June 21, 2023 meeting are approved. Does anybody from the public wish to address the board on agenda items at this point? There will be another opportunity later in the meeting, just on items on the agenda. Anybody at this point? Yes, ma'am. Would you step up to the podium and identify yourself, please? Can you close that door, please, Brian? Yeah, there's an echo.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Denise Brown. My name is Denise Brown. I am a resident of True, Pennsylvania. Regarding agenda items for the payables, there are 92 staff meals for April that were payable at $6 apiece when the contract is $3.31. For the controller's report, monthly there is an over $100,000 revenue report. It is credit card monies, and I'd like to know where that originates from. And the commissary expense report for this year and last year show boots have been purchased. Are those boots for the inmates? For the warden's report, I'm curious if staff members' names are maintained in a database, either at the prison or the DA's office, to review for repetitive PREA complaints. Also, it seems that the majority of reported restraint chair uses involves incidents either during intake or due to suicidal tendencies. Barb Durkin had requested medication-assisted treatment be considered upon induction, as well as having case managers stationed in the prison. I'm curious what the status is of those things. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll have answers or attempted answers at those questions during each particular report, okay? We got, you sent an email last night. Okay, all right.
10 o'clock, I sent it earlier this time.
8 o'clock, yeah. I was already in my pajamas, but don't put that in the newspaper. Okay. So, first item on the agenda is a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison. I trust everybody had an opportunity to review the reports which were circulated earlier.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second. On the question?
Yes, Your Honor. On the
Yes.
question, Denise Brown had a question about the payables report. I saw the email this morning, and we did some research. I have two members of my staff here. And on pages 7 and 8 of the payables report, there are 92 staff meals for April that cost $6 each, as opposed to the contracted amount of $3.31. And it turns out that those meals were for correctional officers who are stationed at the hospital, who have to bring inmates to, say, Geisinger Community Medical Center and be there all day as long as they need to be there for treatment. And their lunches are charged $6 by the hospital for those correctional officers. So there happened to be 92 of them for the month of April, and that's the reason for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else? So we have a motion, we have a second. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison are approved. So we'll get now to Mr. DeBillio, your report.
Yes, Your Honor. So Controller's report for the prison inmate and canteen accounts for June of 2023. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of May 2023, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $458,858.62 as of June 30th, 2023. The balance in the canteen checking account was $418,375.83 as of June 30th. In addition, as of June 30th, the canteen account also included a balance invested in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, better known as Pliget, with investment accounts totaling $757,093.48. That was what was invested 6 months ago, which is earning approximately $3,000 per month, maturing in July of 2023, which is now. The $757,000 was broken down into two parts. One part is $607,876.60, is maturing tomorrow, July 20th, 2023, and it will turn into $622,162.87 as of tomorrow, which will have earned the canteen account an extra $14,268.27. That has been invested for 180 days at a rate of 4.93% annually. The other part is $149,086.28, maturing in 4 days on July 24th, 2023. That will turn into $152,738.44, which is an extra $3,652.16 in interest over the last 180 days, and that has been invested at the rate of 4.94% annually. Last month, I mentioned that we would address those two investments, which are coming to an end, and reinvesting this now $774,901.31. We will have earned $17,938.43. So in front of everyone are the current rates for the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust. And the 180-day rate, you will see as of today, is 5.74% is the rate that we can get for a renewal as of today, which is higher than the 4.93 and 4.94 we've been earning the last 6 months. In addition to that, I mentioned last month that 6 months ago, the canteen checking account was left with a balance of $250,000 when we made this investment. That checking account has grown to $418,000, which was mentioned in my report. So I would perhaps suggest that the board consider not only reinvesting the $774,000 for another 180 days, but adding $100,000 from the canteen checking account on top of that value, which would be investing $874,000. That would still remain, leave us with the checking account balance of $68,000 more than it was 6 months ago when we began the investments. And if you recall, we weren't receiving any interest 6 months ago on any of this checking account money. And now we're making money for the canteen account, which is to be used for the benefit, education, and welfare of the inmates. and that's what we'll continue to do into the future. With that said, I'll make a motion that we consider reinvesting for another 180 days and adding an extra 100,000 from the canteen checking account in doing so.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
On the question, this is a fixed rate? This
Fixed rate for
5.7?
5.74 annualized rate,
Okay.
so we'd get half of that for 180 days, Your Honor.
Any other questions for the controller? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Now mechanically, what do you need? Anything?
Nope, we'll take care of it. We'll contact Pliget
Okay,
this afternoon,
okay.
tell them we'd like to renew for another 180 days, and add the 100,000 from the checking account. We'll take care of that.
Okay.
It expires today, right?
Tomorrow's the 600,000, and 4 days from now, 150,000. Now, in addition, if I might add,
Yes.
Judge,
Oh, yes, there was questions there. yeah.
there's another question from Denise regarding the controller's report. And she wanted to know where $100,000 of monthly revenue was reported as credit card monies, where that originated from. And my staff and I researched that today. And what that is, when an inmate is at the prison, their family and friends often send them money through credit cards. And that money can then be used by the inmate at the commissary to buy different items, snacks and so on. And that's what the 100,000 was used for, came in through credit cards from family and friends of inmates into the inmate's account.
Thank you. And just the last question there about the leather boots that you raised.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Brown, I had a chance to ask the warden about that on the way in. He can address it, but he tells me that these leather boots were for the inmates working in the kitchen. They're required to have a certain type of boots to work there because of the working conditions, but he can expound on that. All right. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Yeah, okay. So do I have a second? Was there a second to Mr. DeBilios? Okay. Any other questions on the investment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Except the
We
report.
did the
That's what I
investment
thought.
and then the
Okay.
report.
All right, okay. So do I have a motion to accept Mr. DeBilios' report for the month
Motion.
Second.
on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The report is approved for the month. Thank you, David. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Mr.
Judge.
DeBilio.
My pleasure.
Norm? We'll hear from Mr. McConaughey on the Community Corrections Center.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a house arrest report for the month of June. Adult house arrest had 179 participants. Juvenile had 28 participants. Programs revenues, adult house arrest had $56,442.57. Juvenile had $6,510, for a total of $62,952.57. And year-to-date totals on both departments is $357,790.66. Programs expenses is $77,415.61. Programs completions were 34. Programs violations were 10. We still have 2 outstanding warrants from house arrest. Budget report overall, overtime's at 42%, expenses at 51%, and revenues at 53%. That's the end of my report.
And I think you told me before the meeting, we have 3,
You have two juveniles that are being housed in Northampton County and one in Reading, and that's it. There's no other beds available.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve Mr. McConaughey's report.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question, any questions for Mr. McConaughey? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The Community Corrections Center report for the month of July is approved. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Warden Betty. We'll now have the warden's report.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for June was 720 inmates, 535 were county inmates. We averaged 616 adult males, 4 juvenile males, and 100 adult females. And the average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees was 185. Our overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. The staffing update, currently our correctional officer numbers break down to 168 full-timers on shift, 9 out on workers' comp, 1 on continuous FMLA, 63 with intermittent FMLA, 1 officer on administrative leave, and there are 2 full-time officer vacancies for a total of 181. Budget as of June 30th, revenue was at 48% and expenses were at 52%. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 8 in the month of June. On June 3rd, an inmate was not complying with the intake process, and a decision was made to place this person in the emergency restraint chair so that an unclothed search could be safely conducted. On June 6th, deputy sheriffs committed a person who presented as suicidal and combative. This person was then non-compliant with the intake process, and a decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair for her safety and the safety of staff. On June 10th, another newly committed person was not compliant with the intake process. This person refused to answer any medical questions. He refused to comply with an unclothed search, and he informed staff that he intended on being a problem. A decision was made to place him in the emergency restraint chair while he was searched and booked. This decision was made for the safety of all involved. On June 13th, a newly committed individual started to bang his head off of a table during the booking and intake process, and a decision was made to place him in the emergency restraint chair for his safety. On June 17th, an individual was on a suicide prevention watch and was observed to repeatedly be banging her head. When questioned about this, the individual informed us that she intended to continue to do so until she knocked herself out. A decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair for her safety. On June 18th, an individual began creating a disturbance at 1 a.m. He began kicking and punching his cell door, threatening staff with physical harm, and demanding that he be released from prison. Several CIT-trained individuals responded and attempted to de-escalate the situation for over half an hour, but were unable to calm him down, and a determination was made that this person was presenting a significant danger to himself, and staff placed him in the emergency restraint chair for his own safety. Also on June 18th, an individual on a suicide prevention watch covered her cell's camera, and she refused to cooperate with efforts to clear the camera. A decision was made to move her to a new cell so that we can clean up the cell she was in and clear the camera of any objects that were impeding a clear view inside the cell. However, this person was uncooperative with efforts to move her. In order to safely transfer her to a new cell, staff had to assemble an extraction team and use a pepper ball launcher before entering the cell to shackle and cuff her. Afterwards, this person was assessed by the nurse and decontaminated. She was then placed in another cell, and the cell was cleaned. And finally, on June 29th, an individual refused to take the medications that she was given. She also refused to return them to the nurse, and because of the type of medications they were, staff determined it was necessary to retrieve the meds from her. This individual resisted all attempts to retrieve the meds, and staff had to temporarily place her in the emergency restraint chair in order to physically retrieve the meds. PREA, there were 5 PREA investigations completed in the month of June, not January. I accidentally wrote January. One inmate on inmate sexual contact was founded. We had 3 staff on inmate sexual harassment allegations. 1 was founded, 2 were unsubstantiated. And we had 1 staff on inmate sexual contact that was declared unfounded. All completed investigations have been forwarded to the DA's office for further action if deemed appropriate. And personnel, I have recommendations for several vacancies that I can discuss in executive session, provided that the board decides to hold an executive session. And this concludes my report.
So Warden, there were a couple questions that Ms. Brown emailed to us. I wonder if you're able to address them. One of them talked about staff member names being maintained in a database either at the prison or the DA's office to review for repetitive PREA complaints.
We do not have that, but I mean, we save every PREA investigation. We also send every PREA investigation to the DA's office. I mean, it's an easy step to take. I don't know that it's that necessary, because if John Doe is accused 5 different occasions this year, it's going to ring a bell with me, but I mean, we could certainly start that kind of database. It's not a bad idea. We could do that.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not sure if you need a separate database, but certainly if you're checking for repetition, that would be a red flag, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And the next question, majority of reported restraint chair uses involved incidents either during intake or due to suicidal tendencies. During the May board meeting, Barb Durkin requested MAT be considered upon induction, as well as having case managers stationed in the prison.
Well, I'm not going to argue that. The majority of our uses of the emergency restraint chair are at the time of booking. An individual is coming to us. Oftentimes, they are under the influence, they're emotional, they're upset, and unfortunately, that leads to sometimes non-compliant behavior. That's number one. Number two is we will also frequently use that in a case of someone expressing severe suicidal ideations. I think I mentioned 1 or 2 here where people were, and when I say they're banging their head, they're really banging their heads. It's not like if I were to just bump my head on this. They're really trying to hurt themselves. And the best way, when they're in that chair, you're secured. You can't bang your head off anything. You can't cut yourself. You can't bite yourself. There's all sorts of things. And unfortunately, these are all sorts of things our officers have to frequently deal with. And that emergency restraint chair is very effective. And frankly, after a course of time, an individual will calm down. And that's the goal, to keep that person safe. First and foremost, keep our staff safe, secondly. So those are the most frequent uses. Almost all, 100% of the uses are intake or suicide precaution. With regard to MAT, our medical provider WellPath is not at the point of doing what they call induction. Induction is when you're not on anything and they're going to start you up with it. We are doing maintenance. So if you come in the door and you're on MAT, we're able to verify that and continue the medication process for those individuals. We just aren't at the point with our medical provider to be looking at induction. And there's precautions that you have to take with that too, because unfortunately, a lot of times when it comes to MAT, in some facilities, I don't believe we're doing it in our facility. Suboxone is a very good medication. It's also, I like to call it the drug of choice in correctional facilities because of the ease of smuggling and contraband-wise. So we have to be very careful when we're dealing with Suboxone and some of those other meds, because sometimes individuals might be looking to use that for matters other than their own recovery.
Anybody else have any questions for the warden? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
So, thanks, Warden. Stick around. All right, anybody from the public wish to address the board? Joan?
Joan Hodawanit, Scranton. First, I want to compliment the warden. Every month when I come here, he always has a very informative report. It covers staffing issues, it covers revenue and expenses, it covers overtime, and incidents within the prison. I do have one question, though. Many times you see when there are these PREA incidents, some are founded and passed on to the DA's office, but we never hear if the shoe drops with the DA. Is there any way, saying, well, of the 3 founded that were forwarded in the month of July, we're taking action on 2, and 1 we cannot pursue? Have we ever done that? Anything like that?
Well, once we refer it to the DA's office, it's in the hands of the DA.
Right, and he sits on this board.
But he sits on this board, but I don't want to speak for him, but I know as a former prosecutor myself, we don't make announcements when we decide not to prosecute somebody.
Okay.
And when we make a decision to prosecute somebody, the announcement is the filing of the charge.
Okay. I get a little concerned, not only inmate on inmate, but staff on inmate makes me concerned.
Oh, yeah, it should
You
be.
know, that it needs to be run to ground. It's either substantiated or it's not. It's going to be pursued or it's not.
And that's why they're all sent, whether they're found at the prison to be
Right.
founded or unfounded, they're all referred to the DA's office for, Mr. Powell, can you respond to?
Is he
Joe?
there?
Certainly, the standard for arrest is different than the standard for a determination of founded. The arrests are public. Any other investigations are not public according to CREA, the Criminal Information Act. So we do not comment on investigations or are not allowed to release that information.
Okay, so the arrest is our feedback.
The arrest is, filing of charges will be the answer
Particularly
to
if
your
it's a
question.
staff member.
Pardon?
But if it's a staff member, it would make the news.
Oh, sure it would.
Yeah, okay. The only other thing I want to bring up is several months ago, I recommended that the prison board have an independent audit of the canteen fund because of the size of the fund. Now, I know Mr. DeBilio, and he's a man of integrity, and I don't lose sleep over what he's doing with, that money behind our backs. The problem is Mr. DeBilio will not be controller forever, number 1. Number 2, it's unfair to the controller.
We might take issue with that with you.
It's unfair to the controller and his staff to be put in a position where they don't have an independent verification of how those funds are handled. Because anybody from the general public could say, I think he's, getting a free ride. So both for the taxpayer, for your fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer, and also I think it's important for the current controller and his staff, and all future controllers. I mean, the next guy may be a Putin lover for all we know, so I recommended an independent audit. The board voted that they would do one, and I haven't heard squat. So where do we stand on the audit?
We, I think, let out a request for proposals.
Mr. Ruggiero was providing his names of firms who are already with the county, and we were reviewing their availability to do it.
That's the last step that I remember, yes, because
Actually, it
we
was Mr. Alou that we were going to hire.
we got a proposal
And then-
from him,
Right.
right?
And then we kind
Right.
of held off
Yeah.
on that, so, I'm totally in favor of that, Joan. All of us are.
Yeah.
And we kind of hit the brakes on it just temporarily, but I think that's probably. Okay.
Yeah. So you would start with calendar year 2023, and it would continue year after year, not necessarily with the same auditor, but you institutionalize the process of an audit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and your object is to begin with calendar year or fiscal year 2023. I mean, I can live with that. But I just think that now, your Pliget fund is pushing 7 figures.
That was actually on Denise's list of questions too, Joan. And as I said, the whole board is in favor of it. We received one proposal, and we're thinking that we should get more than one.
Yeah, well, if you're going to do it for this fiscal year, you've got some time left, for them to begin in January. But I don't want to see that forgotten. I think that's very important, so that it lives beyond your term as controller,
That's right,
and then nobody has to worry about it.
that's right.
Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks for your good words about the warden. Anybody else?
Paid political or not.
Hello again. Okay. Regarding the commissary account, I love spreadsheets. I put everything in spreadsheets and I can get a better picture of it. So, also, as a union member, we always had trustees who would make sure that our books were kept right. So I'm suggesting maybe that be an avenue to review, just having somebody from the public who can review. If you put all your information into a spreadsheet, it's very easy to see what's there. And then that would give them the opportunity to just look at it and say, hey, this doesn't look right to me, this might be out of place. So that's my solution for that. The county pays about $120 to feed an inmate 3 meals a day for a month. The county also pays about $400 a month for health care. That's based on an average daily population of 700 people. I would like to see more funds being used to feed the inmates. So I'm curious, with the commissary making all this interest, is that money that can be used to increase the food contract for better quality food, better portions? I'm also wondering, I believe inmates pay $5 for COVID or co-pays for visits and prescriptions. What happens to that money? The conversation about free access to the tablets has been brought up multiple times. The prison is currently getting $37,000 minimum monthly guaranteed revenue share for the prison from those tablets. There's a bonus payment of 2% annually from 2023 to up to 8% in 2026. The warden had discussed a proposal to add more books and free time at a cost of $20,000, which could potentially increase the amount of free time to 4 hours. I'm wondering if that 4 hours is tied to getting those books, or is that something that could happen without getting the book program? There's also, GTL is to provide core education suites on the tablet that include 12 topics, and that's to be at no cost to the county or the inmates according to the contract. Do the inmates have access to those courses outside of the free time? I think it's very important for inmates to have something to do other than just hang out, and, so reading and education is very important. And lastly, no, that was actually my last because I put my last first, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have something on that, Judge.
I know it.
Actually, we got off on a tangent talking about the investments on my canteen report.
Okay.
And I left off the bottom when Denise mentioned the $80,000 that was spent by the canteen account. The last paragraph is, during the month of June 2023, $80,593.19 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of county inmates. And an itemized details are attached. She asked a couple of questions about that. Here's a list of 12 different items the $80,000 was spent on. And I'll just go down them quick. Number one is for Comcast, total Xfinity digital starter TV, total cable TV, high-speed business internet. Aramark received money for fresh favorite program, fruits and snacks. USPS, Postal Service, for monthly installment payment due to law library tablets. Let's see. I'm sorry, that was LexisNexis for the monthly installment payment due for law library tablets. Postal Service is for provided indigent legal mail for 7 inmates. Oasis Management Systems, sales due Oasis $50,000, provided kits for indigent inmates. Matthew Bender Company, and that's Law Library External Hardware and Materials. 7 is Jean Marie Moletsky, who provides haircuts for 567 inmates. Williamsport Bowman Barber Supply, of course, for the haircut supplies. Recovery Shop, purchase barber supplies, black capes, trimmer, clipper, blades. Times Tribune, inmate newspaper subscription for May. Rapid Scan System, service contract for reception scanner. And Bob Barker and Company purchased mattresses with pillows, orange laundry bags, black leather boots. So that was the $80,000 that was spent in June.
Thank you, Gary. Anybody else from the public? Bev?
Bev DeBarros from Scranton. You may know that the chapel is now open and there are religious services regularly scheduled in there, and that's wonderful. And I wanted to just talk about the chapel room itself. Maybe everybody here has seen it, but the public might be interested to know what it's like. The chapel is like centrally located in the jail. And you go in, there is an altar on a raised platform. There's a whiteboard that we can, use. There's all the chairs or individual plastic chairs are stacked there, and then we can arrange them in a circle or rows or whatever we want. Okay, then there's a locked closet off to the side, and the CO opens that if it's a Muslim service. The cart with the prayer rugs and the Qurans is brought out. If it's, in my case, the Bibles are brought out on racks to be used with, during our studies. The best part is, and I think I heard that Marywood College did this years ago before I ever came in. The walls are painted beautifully with lettering of scriptures in different languages sometime, religious symbols, a dove, whatever, a Bible maybe. And it's a very nice space, especially once the people get inside. Then it becomes the heart, it's just, I just want everybody to know that this is happening within Lackawanna County Prison. Another way, beyond just my words, I was thinking maybe the newspaper or ECTV at some point in time might be able to get in there and photograph that and have printed in the paper or on Channel 19 so that the larger public is aware of that aspect of our prison.
I'd be happy to put Boris in there for about a week. What do you think, Boris? No
Guess
comment.
The editor has to.
Okay.
Asks questions. He doesn't like to be-
Thank you, Bev. We'll take it under advisement, okay. Anybody else from the public? Okay, Warden, you said you wanted to go into executive session? Okay, can I ask everybody to step out and we'll go into executive session, please? Okay, Okay, we're back on the air. So we're in an executive session to talk about a couple of personnel matters. And so, Warden, you have a proposal?
Yes, I was recommending the promotion of Glenn Kapman to the rank of lieutenant.
And he's currently
He's currently employed at the prison, yes, sir.
as a corrections officer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve the promotion of Mr. Kapman?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from that vote, Your Honor,
Okay,
due to the history Mr. Kaplan and I have. I think it would be inappropriate for me to cast a vote.
okay, all right. So with the abstention of the sheriff, I detected ayes. Do I have any nays? The ayes have it, so the promotion is approved by the board. And what's the other matter?
The other matter was I was recommending that Joseph Harris be hired as an investigator, a newly created position of investigator at the Lackawanna County Prison. Mr. Harris is a veteran of the Scranton Police Department, and he brings a unique skill set with him. I think he would be highly valuable.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Motion. To hire Mr. Harris?
Motion.
All right, motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, on the question? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Harris will be hired.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other business from any of the members of the board? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.